Welcome back to our introductory session on teaching with three-dimensional design in Tinkercad. My name is Jennifer Robb, and in this section, we'll be looking at how to use Tinkercad's classroom feature to make teaching with Tinkercad easier. So as educators, why is this classroom feature so valuable? First, it makes it easier to create and keep track of students' login information, so your students aren't constantly losing their passwords or their usernames. You'll have access to them at all times. It also gives you more visibility and control over students' activity in Tinkercad. Through the Tinkercad classroom, you as the teacher have the ability to view all of their designs at a glance in the classroom gallery, which can make assessment much easier for you. On the topic of assessments, the classroom feature allows you to create assignments in Tinkercad, which not only gathers students' work on that project in one place, it also gives you the opportunity to create assignment starters. Say if you want them all to create their designs using a specific piece, which I'll talk about more in a little bit. Finally, classrooms allow you to control certain privacy features with their safe mode. Turning safe mode on for the entire class or just for specific students prevents students from sharing their designs outside of the classroom or seeing and posting public comments. It also restricts the public gallery so that students can view and remix from a smaller subset of approved projects. So there are lots of reasons to consider using the Classrooms feature if you plan to use Tinkercad with your students. So before we wind down, I want to take you through the Tinkercad Classroom features one by one. So in the left bar here, I'm going to click on where it says Classes and into this test classroom I created, and first show you the Students tab. The nice thing about Classrooms is that it makes it very easy for you to add students. As the teacher, all you need to do is click on the Add Students button, and you can enter students one by one and change their nickname if you want to. So I'm going to change this to first name, last initial, and year. Or if you have a list of your students, you can copy and paste them into this box here, and what that will do is create a seat for every student that you have. Now, students will join your class using the class link, which you can display on screen for your students using the Share Class Link button. And this code will be refreshed after this video, so it won't work if you try to join it, but this is a good way to display the code for your students to see. They will need to navigate to this link here and enter the username you've created for them, which if you've kept it simple like we did with the first name, last initial, and the year, it's easy to remember. If not, you can back out of this and use the other option, which is this class roster button. It will open in a new tab a list of all the students you've created a seat for in your class, with the name of the classroom, the link to access Tinkercad, the class code, and the nickname you've created for them. All you need to do is print this out, cut out the strips on the dotted line, and hand them out to your students. You can manage most things about your class from this page, including changing students' usernames, changing the class code if you need to, at the bottom of your class link here, or changing privacy settings, either for your entire class or for individual students. You'll also be able to see who has logged in and claimed their seat by the color of their text and their display picture here. For example, in this class, you can see that Jennifer's student account has been claimed, but John's and Lucy's have not yet because their pictures are grayed out and I can't modify their settings yet because they have not logged in as students. Another benefit of Tinkercad Classrooms is that you can create assignments or activities for students to complete. They can easily access these activities from within the Tinkercad classroom, and perhaps more importantly, you can view each student's work on that particular activity in one place. In these activities, you can provide students with instructions and any designs you want students to use. As an example, last summer we worked with a group of students who were tasked with designing blades for a miniature wind turbine using Tinkercad. Rather than have students create their own Tinkercad accounts as you've done in this session, we decided it would be easier to create a classroom where we could more easily share resources and view their designs in case we needed to help troubleshoot. In that classroom, we created this activity for their wind turbine design, instructing them to consider ways in which they could make their blades aerodynamic, efficient, and sturdy enough to withstand the high-speed winds in Ontario Tech's wind tunnel. The wind turbine kit we were using required the blades to have a specific fixture in order to fit into the assembly, so we provided students with the stem you see here. Students were then able to make a copy of this stem and then build their blades around it, making sure they would fit into the turbines. You can see here that we have access to the different designs that students have created and started, and there's a whole list below this, but I obviously don't want to show students' names. And if we were to be grading students on this activity, this would make it very easy for us to view and evaluate their work. The Designs tab in your Tinkercad classroom functions as a classroom gallery. Here you can see all of the designs that students have created, both as part of your classroom and also on their own, all in one place. In this classroom, I am the only active student, so all you can see are some of the tutorials I have done, as well as a couple of spacecraft projects I started as inspiration for a grade 6 class. You can filter these by clicking on the different buttons for designs, circuits, code blocks, and if you used any of Tinkercad's built-in lessons. This gallery is a great way to see how active your students have been and quickly monitor the kinds of things that they're creating. The Notifications tab allows you to see all of the class activity in a single list. So here I can see when students have created a copy of something to remix it with this green rotating arrow symbol, as well as the text that says remixed a certain time ago. I can also see when students have created something brand new with the text designed beside it instead of copied. And you can also see when students delete things. So in this instance, my student account had designed this task, which was just the Align It tutorial that you did earlier, but then directly underneath that, it shows that it has been removed. There are a couple of other things you can do here as well. So if you click on the text of the design, you can go in and see what students have been or are currently working on. So for example, I can click on this copy of pirate ship text and tinker it and look at what the student has been creating. If they were currently working in the file, I could also see what they did as they were doing it. So if they changed the color of this boat, I would see that immediately. If they added something, I would see that. And you as the teacher also have the option to create things and add things to your students' designs. One of the favorite ways I like to use this is by using the notes function to ask students questions about things as they're creating it. So say I wanted to know where this came from because I saw that the student remixed it. I might ask, where did you get this design? And the student would see that the next time they worked in their file. You can also ban certain designs that maybe are inappropriate or you don't want students to be using or working on in your class. Banning something, it deactivates it from the student's account. So if I were to ban this, my student account would no longer see this design in their account. You might choose to ban something just to temporarily remove it and have a conversation with the student, and then you can restore it if you figure out a solution to that. The last part of Tinkercad Classrooms I want to show you is the Co-Teachers tab. As the teacher of a Tinkercad classroom, you have the ability to add co-teachers who can help you manage students in the class. Co-teachers can do most of the things that the primary teacher can do, including viewing the student gallery, helping students with their designs in real time, and moderating classroom activity in the Notifications tab. However, co-teachers cannot create new content for the classroom. This means that co-teachers can't add students or create activities for students to complete. Even though they can't create content, having co-teachers can be very helpful. Especially when students are first learning to use Tinkercad, having multiple people who are able to go into students' designs and see what they're doing as they're working can help make sure students aren't waiting too long for help, which can cause them to become frustrated or disengaged when trying to learn a new technology. So that brings us to the end of this introductory session on using Tinkercad's three-dimensional design platform for teaching with STEAM. To remind us of some of the things we covered over this session, we developed an understanding of the basic functions of Tinkercad and some of the more advanced ones. We created unique personal designs using those functions and features. We reflected on some of the possible applications of Tinkercad to teach with STEAM, and we reflected on the potential benefits and challenges of using Tinkercad as a tool for teaching. I want to thank you so much for exploring Tinkercad with me today. I hope you found value in this session and will consider working with Tinkercad in the future. If you have any questions or you'd like to connect with me, please feel free to reach out on any of the platforms I've listed here in the slide. Also, if you would like to connect with the STEAM 3D Maker Lab, our handle is @STEAM 3D Maker Lab on all social media platforms. If you have a copy of the slides, you will be able to access direct links to all of our profiles from there. Thank you once again, and if you're interested in some extra resources and activities that I've put together for this session, I'll see you in the next and final video.